Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to M1 Racing and our live coverage of the G-Force Racing League. My name is Mark, and I'll be your host for the next hour or so as we watch this race 2 of the G-Force Racing League from here in Italy. I am joined, as always, by my co-pilot Pete, who is in the background monitoring the chat and also making sure we don't miss anything important or out on the track with the race today. If you are joining us for the first time here on M1 Racing, it is great to have you here. Thanks ever so much for giving us some of your time on a Wednesday. And if you are rejoining us from before, it's even better to have you back. So hopefully you'll stick around for the next hour or so for what we hope is going to be a pretty fantastic race. So today we are at one of the most iconic circuits on the F1 calendar, at the Imola circuit here in Italy. One of the toughest ones, I think, for some of the drivers to master. Last week we had perhaps one of the trickiest corners on the F1 calendar, the turn 10 in Bahrain, and this week we're going to see the drivers going through one of the most iconic corners, Acqua Minerale, which will push our drivers and their cars to the absolute limit. Unfortunately, Imola, or San Marino as it's also known, is notable for another reason. It is the place which sadly took the lives of Roland Ratzenberger and Ayrton Senna, arguably the greatest F1 driver of all time, in 1994. But their memory and influence on this amazing sport continues to live on, and we certainly remember them today. So Imola, a track distance 4.9 kilometres, 19 corners, one DRS zone, but key overtaking points in turns 2, 7 and 17. And we'll take a closer look at those as we follow our drivers around on their hot laps here. So we're going to ride on board with Alex as they head around on their opening qualifying lap here at this marvellous circuit in Imola. So we go up the hill, trying to get as much speed up this hill as we possibly can. We'll see if Alex lifts just slightly. And then down the hill into Acqua Minerale, keeping the foot planted, braking through the chicane. Up we go to the very anti-outer. Alex maybe almost trying to straight line those curbs will unsettle the car, get back on the power. To come back down the hill once more. Guide it round back onto the start-finish straight. And we cross the line for our opening fastest time of qualifying, 1:15.570. So Alex 1 setting the early pace there for the rest of our drivers to chase after. One's coming in behind them with a 1:17.238. Now what I'm going to do here, just for all of us watching, is bring up tyres, because what we have seen some of our drivers doing in recent weeks is going out on some medium tyres in the early stage of qualifying, just to get their eye in on the track. So we can see Domo Pierce here out on some medium tyres, and that allows our drivers just to get settled in a little bit. I expect most of them will have been practicing over the last week or so in the build up to today's race. But it's always, as we see Domo coming in, perhaps getting used to the track once again, and they'll be out shortly, perhaps on the mediums again, or to do a proper flying lap on some soft tyres. So let's ride on board with Imolecki. Imolecki has been one of our superstar drivers in the early stages of the G-Force Racing League. Third position, I think it was, in our pre-season race. And then last week pushed SS7 all the way to the very end of our opening race in Bahrain. So Imolecki definitely a driver to watch around Imola today as they head up the hill. Hopefully that other car in front will stay well out of the way. Thank you to them. As we'll try and stay within track limits and head down to Acqua Minerale. Drifting out over the curves, up the hill, down to the chicane at turns 14 and 15. Imola might look to straight line it. They do, trying to cut off that apex as much as they can. This is looking like a pretty decent lap from Imola. So we come down into turn 17, then the car drift out onto those wide curves, lining out neatly for the main straight. Heading over the finish line, and they go second with a 1:15.174. And we can see MVR has taken provisional pole position at the moment with a 1:14.184. So NVR, one of our new drivers, and we have some fantastic news today with all of the permanent seats on the G-Force Racing League now being filled. Sorry, Imola, I'll come off of you as you disappear off into the gravel for a visit. So all seats now filled. We don't have a full grid here today, so we've got 13 drivers out today, but I think we'll now have a much fuller grid in our subsequent races for the rest of the season. Now, unfortunately, It's Cameron has, again, one of our other new drivers has picked up a 5-place grid penalty for a collision with Domo Pierce, which is rather unfortunate at this early stage in qualifying. So hopefully that's not caused any significant damage to either driver. But we'll hopefully see what Domo Pierce can do. Now, McLaren had a really good week last week in Bahrain. I think finishing 2nd and 6th. So some good, strong early points for McLaren. And Domo Pierce appears to be a very consistent driver and going to be a good teammate, I think, to Imola. So McLaren have had a very good start to the season, leading the Constructors' Championship at this early stage. So we'll follow Domo Pierce. We'll give them the honour of being our driver to take us round the Imola circuit as they go on to their hot lap. So Domo just trying to line the car up now, getting prepared and ready. It's obviously not comfortable. Maybe there was some damage there picked up from that collision with It's Cameron. So let's go and find Ace Pilot here. So we do like to watch Ace Pilot. It's definitely a driver that's willing to learn, do his best as they progress through the season. And certainly interesting to see how Ace Pilot goes as they progress. One of our less experienced drivers, but that's what we like to see, someone who perseveres. They've certainly been a clean driver. I don't think they've caused any troubles for their fellow drivers on the grid. Maybe we'll come back to Ace Pilot as they get a bit close. So we're going to watch Wands, one of our newer drivers here, as they appear to be on a hot lap, are they? No, 1 lap old, soft tyres here. So I don't think they may be on a particularly hot lap. But Mr. Hannes definitely is. Again, Mr. Hannes has been with us, I think, from the beginning as a reserve driver originally, but now I think taking one of the permanent seats at Haas. And again, they've handled themselves pretty well. So we go down through Acqua Minerale up from turn 12 and 13, and we head down to the chicane here. Over those curbs, trying to get, and that can happen very easily. Those curbs are so high there that it's very easy to unsettle the car, sadly. So Mr. Hannes will probably have another go in just a moment. We'll go back down to Ace Pilot now. Seems to have backed out of their lap as well, so perhaps not going quite as well for some of these drivers in these early stages. And I did mention at the start, this is one of, in my opinion, one of the toughest tracks to get right on this game. Pete is telling me in my ear that MVR is just about to start their hot lap. They have set the early pace, and indeed is ahead of SS7, their early championship leader. So let's see how MVR gets on as they start their hot lap. So we're heading down now into turns 2 and 3. I think the drivers will be looking to get in early apex so they can accelerate out of 3 and 4, and we head down to the next kind of chicane, 5 and 6. This is where that rhythm's really important. Don't want to be drifting off into that gravel. Nicely done by MVR. Late apex, accelerate as early as we can up the hill. That good apex there can give you an extra couple of tenths as we drift through a bit too wide. That may be beyond track limits if MVR pulls out, as indeed they have. And we'll see track limits, I think, being tested a number of times by our drivers today. I do see Delta 1 here, just coming into the pits. So we're back with Imola here. We'll follow them from outside the cockpit as they go round on their next qualifying lap. We're 6 minutes left to go in this session, so not much time left for our drivers to get a good time in. So Imola's previous time, 1:15.174, is what they'll be looking to be. Look to be up in Sector 1 by 2 tenths, so it's coming together nicely for them. Green in Sector 1. Possibly a little bit wide there, and you see, I mentioned track limits, that their lap times will be automatically disqualified if they go beyond track limits. And indeed, Imola is exactly given up on that particular lap. May go in for another set of tyres, or may try again on these. So they may go again on these same tyres, or perhaps try again. So Alex 1 now on another lap out. Just looking at the timing screens, looks to be up in Sector 1. Just by 1/1000th of a second as they come over the hill. And heading over the start-finish line for a 1:15.370. So improved slightly, but remain there in 6th place. So as we head into the last 5 minutes of qualifying, we've got MVR in provisional pole position with a very strong time of 1:14.184. It does look as though Imola is trying again on those same set of tyres, trying to improve on their 3rd place. They were only 2 tenths behind SS7 before, so every opportunity for them to make that up. So MVR in 1st place provisionally. SS7 are in 2nd spot on the grid right now. Dangerous Dave in 3rd. Dangerous Dave, if you were with us last week, I did comment on the fact that he had really solid drive in our pre-season race in Spain, but sadly had an issue in the second race or our first race proper in Bahrain. But I think it will be a consistent and a strong performer throughout the season. So continuing that form here, is currently qualifying in 3rd. Imola in 4th. Delta 1, one of our other new drivers, in 5th currently. It's Cameron in 6th and Alex in 7th. So like you see, another new driver with us in 9th. Domo Pierce in 10th. Wands in 11th. Ace Pilot currently in 12th. And Bagisaurus yet to set a time there in 13th. So here is Dangerous Dave. I think they probably on their in-lap, having done one lap on those tyres. Indeed they are. So the drivers currently, majority out in their sat in their pits as they prepare for their final qualifying lap. This could get quite busy as we approach the last 3 minutes of qualifying. So we're just keeping an eye on the timing screens here to see who is out. So let's go and join. It's Cameron who is on their outlap here, driving for Alfa Romeo. Joined the Alfa Romeo team just today. So welcoming them to the G-Force Racing League. As they look to beat their first qualifying time of 1:15.268. Now, a reminder that the drivers only have a small selection of tyres to choose from. It will be a collection of soft and medium tyres, but whatever tyres they use during qualifying today will influence the tyres they have available to them in the race. So some drivers will only be looking to do a handful of qualifying laps and preserve those precious soft tyres for the main race, and then other drivers will be looking just to get their best time and push themselves as far up the grid as they can. It does look as though MVR has called it a day for qualifying. They seem very happy on their 114.184. As we come down to the first chicane, turn 2 and 3, clipping those Italian flagged curbs. Car on the left staying nicely out of the way. We come into 4 and 5, and then we'll head down, 5 and 6, and we head down into turn 7. Bit of a wide apex, but look to get on the power, drift out on that curb and accelerate up the hill. As we drift through 9 and 10, staying within track limits, Delta 1 picking up a 5 pace grid penalty for collision with Ace Pilot. It's Cameron accelerating up the hill. It is definitely up. There are over 2 tenths up on their original time, so definitely looking at putting Delta 1's position under pressure here, and potentially also Imola as we go down to the final couple of corners here, turn 17 and 18, looking to get a good exit here, don't run wide, accelerate over the start finish line as close to the barriers as we dare. And it's Cameron goes into second place. I was scanning a bit further down the leaderboard there, but what a great qualifying time from It's Cameron. Let's go down to SS7, an early championship leader from our first race in Bahrain. Looking to maintain some early good form, but it's clearly up against some strong opposition today here in Imola. As they go down to turn 7, much tighter apex than It's Cameron. Up we go up the hill. SS7 already 1.5 tenths up on their first qualifying time. As we go through 9, staying within the track limits through 10, down to Acqua Minerale, keeping it flat until we decelerate, go back up the hill. Looks as though SS7 lost some time there. We'll be trying to climb back up that hill over those big curves here at the very anti-outer chicane. Accelerating out, and they're getting the power, get that grip down as quickly as they can down the hill. Through 16, which isn't too much of a corner, through 70. Hugging that inside curb, getting back on the power, accelerating towards the start finish line for a time of 114.646. So we'll qualify in third place. Well done SS7, well done MVR, and well done It's Cameron. We have Delta 1 behind them, who has obviously given up on their qualifying lap, and looks as though Domo Pierce has just crossed the line to improve from their original position up to 8th with a 115.921. So welcome to our new drivers who are going to push our early championship leader SS7 in race 2 here of the G-Force Racing League. Now, we didn't catch Bagiosaurus and their earlier lap. They did just get the one lap in by the looks of things, a 122.310 in 13th place. So sadly not improving from that particular spot. Now, I'm hearing from the pit lane that today's race is going to be a mix of rain and sunshine. So that's going to give our drivers and the pit crews certainly something to think about as they work out their race strategies for today. I think we could also expect, with a slightly busier grid and a tough track, that there may be some safety cars today. Safety cars are set to reduced. However, the G-Force Racing League has upped the stakes a little bit this second race out. In agreement with the drivers, the damage is being set to standard rather than reduced. really to make it a more realistic experience. But as a result of that, I can expect we may get some safety cars, perhaps slightly more than we normally would, and that's going to influence those pit strategies as well as the weather. And of course, here we are in Europe, Northern Hemisphere, we can expect some rain from time to time. So MVR in first position, pole position, with It's Cameron alongside them on the front row. SS7 in third. Delta 1 also be alongside them on the second row. Dangerous Dave in fifth. Emilaki in sixth. El Alex 1 in seventh. Domo Pierce in eighth. And Mr. Hannes ninth. Solite in 10th. The drivers will be preparing now, looking at their pit strategies, working out which tyres they're going to go on. Are they going to go for a one stop or a two stop? I think most races this season will typically be a one stop, but strategy, the weather and safety cars is going to influence that significantly. For your reference, fastest race lap record in the real world was a 1:15.48 by Lewis Hamilton in 2020, obviously driving for Mercedes. So that's a benchmark for our top runners here today. And certainly our early championship leader, SS7, will be hoping to deliver another good result here for Mercedes as well. But it looks as though they've got some competition this week from MVR and It's Cameron. Just a reminder that we here on M1 Racing are delighted to be covering the G-Force Racing League. We're planning to follow every race live of the league throughout the season. There are 12 races in total. First race was last week in Bahrain. We'll come back to that as we wait for the start of this race. All right, folks, let's go racing. Good solid start there from NVR with SS7 getting off the line well as we go down to that first chicane. SS7 following close behind MVR with Dangerous Dave in third. El Alex 1 has got up to fourth. Emileki in fifth. It's Cameron has had a pretty shocking start. It seems they've got down to sixth already. Maybe some wheel spin, maybe, and there's a safety car already. The ace pilot sadly has left us at this early stage. Unfortunately, we may have to look back at some replays if any of the drivers caught that, but we have lost ace pilot early on. That has brought out early safety car, which gives us an opportunity here, perhaps just to bring up the tyres for us all, so we can see perhaps at this stage what the drivers are thinking. Pete is reminding me, and that's why I need him with me. So there were those 5-place grid penalties to be applied at the start of this race. So that would explain why It's Cameron is back there in sixth. So it was good of them to get such a good qualifying time. It might explain why they've gone early onto those soft tyres. See if they can make up some early places in these initial laps. So MVR out on medium tyres, SS7 on hards. 5-second penalty for Delta 1 speeding in the pit lane. That may well hurt them sadly at the end of the race. There will be a speed limit all the drivers need to adhere to. The game is very strict, there is no getting around it, and it's very easy to pick up those extra 5 seconds, which will be added on to Delta 1's time at the end of the race. So Delta 1, they're on to the hards as they come out of the pits. So it's pretty much as you were, I think, for the front three. MVR, SS7, Dangerous Dave. LX1 in fourth. Emileki in fifth. It's Cameron in sixth. Domo Pierce in seventh. Mr. Hannes in eighth. Baggysaurus in ninth. And Wands in 10th. Solites dropped back to 11th. Delta 1 in 12th. And sadly, we've lost Ace Pilot very early on. So SS7 looking to play the long game with those hard tyres, but it's going to be under some early pressure from Dangerous Dave behind on those mediums. But we'll be looking to try and stay in touch with MVR. We hope that damage to Ace Pilo's not made too much of a mess of the track. We'll see when the safety car is ending. And it's Cameron, the only one on soft tyres, so they will be looking to get through this pack as quickly as possible. But this safety car will help them because it will preserve those tyres for a few more laps than otherwise they normally would. But also cars will be carrying a heavier fuel load at this point in time, so it does put extra strain on those less durable tyres. If you're interested in the technicalities of this particular league and you're interested in perhaps signing up as a reserve driver in case one of these spots becomes available, equal car performance is on, so all the cars run essentially to the same kind of specifications. There is some debate about whether or not that's actually true, but essentially the performance of these cars should be reasonably equal, so it's more down to the driver's ability. There is no recovery mode, so if our drivers leave the track, they will have to find their own way back on. There is a manual race start, so the drivers will have to control when they start, when the lights go out. Car damage this week is set to standard, so any connection with another car or a barrier or even curbs will incur potential damage to our cars and reduce their performance. Safety car is on reduce, but that was clearly a significant enough event for the safety car to come out with Ace Pilot. I think most driving assists are available, so it's very much a driver's choice as to what they turn on, be that ABS or automatic gears. But the general rule of thumb is the more assists the driver uses, the slightly slower they are likely to go. Our weather in the game is set to dynamic, so the drivers really are not sure what they're going to experience until they get into race day and they look to their pit crew. So we are getting ready to restart. Safety car is ending, so MVR will now become that safety car. They'll back the pack up here. We'll look to lead the cars out to start lap 4 of this 32 lap race here in Imola. So MVR just backing the pack up, and they are off. So has SS7 been on their toes there? Looks like a reasonable start by MVR, but SS7 definitely going with them. Potentially got a slight jump on Dangerous Dave, and we'll just drop back a little bit here to El Alex because it looked as though Imola had a decent exit. And we'll be following down the main straight as we head out down towards turns 5 and 6. Great shot from the helicopter there as we go through 5 and 6 and then down into 7. We're tracking El Alex 1 here as they come up behind Dangerous Dave. We do have a yellow flag in sector 1. That seems to have dissipated very quickly, which is good to know. It's Cameron here on the soft tyres, putting Imola under pressure. So soft tyres up against hard tyres. There's usually only one winner here, but as you can see there, It's Cameron had so much more grip coming out of Aqua Minerale, going down to Variante Alta, goes down on the inside. Looks like a very clean pass. Nicely done, It's Cameron as they move up into 4th place. Imola will be looking to follow them around. And we have lost, SS7 has dropped right back to 10th spot, so clearly had some kind of issue at the chicane, Pete's telling me, which is sadly dropped them back, so they will have to work hard to bring it back. It's Cameron already up now into 3rd place and hunting down El Alex 1 in front of them. MVR has already pulled out quite a significant lead in front of El Alex 1. Delta 1 picking up a 3-second time penalty. That will be, I guarantee you, for track limits. And we are going to see a lot of those penalties here today. I think even It's Cameron potentially going over track limits there as well. So we need to monitor for those. Penalties, I think, will play a role at the end of this race. So It's Cameron closing down on El Alex 1. Definitely looking to follow them for a little while, see how long those tyres last. And Mr. Hannes actually will drop down to Mr. Hannes. So Imola on those hard tyres, finding it hard to get some early temperature in them after the safety car period. So Mr. Hannes closing in on Imola, looking to take that 4th place. But we know from watching Imola last couple of races that they are very strong later on in the race. So this hard tyre strategy may pay dividends depending on when we see any rain. DRS now labelled, so this is going to have a significant benefit for those within that 1 second DRS range as they pass the DRS timing beam, which is just, I believe, before turn 17. So SS7 up to 9th, so looking to make up those gaps that that time they lost earlier from that spin at the chicane earlier on. So it's Cameron closing down now on El Alex. And we'll be interested to see how long those soft tyres last. We'll just have an early look at winners and losers in this opening few laps here. So we can see El Alex 1 up 3. It's Cameron looking to make it up 4 now. Making up. They have got. Well done. It's Cameron. Nicely done. Again into the chicane there. Let's see how much of that gap to MVR. And MVR has pretty much marched away after that safety car period. Over 4 seconds up. So we'll see how much it's Cameron can close that gap down. El Alex following it's Cameron will be looking to use the DRS down this straight here. That will allow them to keep in touch. So it's Cameron will need to have an eye on those mirrors as we come down. Indeed, El Alex coming past it's Cameron. And well done, nice move by El Alex, one very clean as they come through the chicane down to turns 5 and 6 once again. So you can see the power of DRS here. Although we only have the one zone, it is incredibly powerful, particularly when the energy recovery system, the battery is deployed, ERS is deployed. You will see cars fly past down that main straight when they've got the advantage of DRS. So penalties currently for Delta 1 and Bagiosaurus. Bagiosaurus up 2 from their starting position as El Alex 1 looks to potentially get a little bit out of shape as they come up the hill as we go back into Variante Alta. But it's Cameron not being able to get past on this occasion, but clearly has a much stronger exit out of the chicane. And we'll look to go round the outside. Good battle by these two as we come round the end of lap 7 here. And SS7 keeping an eye on the championship leader here has made it up to 7th place. Bear in mind they're on those hard tyres, so we'll be able to go slightly longer. But this battle between El Alex 1 and it's Cameron continues to fight. And Imola has decided to join the party here. And also Mr. Hannes behind them. Domo Pierce is also looking to get in on the action. Only 7/10 behind Mr. Hannes. So El Alex backing up this group into each other. And we're definitely going to keep our focus on these two. So lap 8 of 32. I suspect it's Cameron will be starting to feel a little bit pain on those softer tyres. Clearly not able to put its LLX1 under quite so much pressure as they were before. Still looking to make a move into the chicane, but you can see the queue of cars now behind them. LLX1, it's Cameron, Emeleki, Mr. Hannes and Domo Pierce, with SS7 looking to close down that 4-second gap to Domo Pierce. One's there in the Mercedes, in the Aston Martin, back in 8th place at the moment on their medium tyres. Delta 1 closing them down on their hards now, so the hards starting to come into their own. And Mr. Hannes goes past Emeleki. So Mr. Hannes up to 4th. And it's Cameron up into 2nd. So I can see spaces changing almost lap by lap here. The drivers running very close together, but very clean driving from what we can tell at this moment in time. So well done to all those drivers. It's as much about keeping concentration. As you see, LLX1 got massive snap of oversteer on the way out of turn 7 there, and as a result it's dropped back a bit. So Mr. Hannes now putting Alex 1 under some pressure, and Imola is not giving up as well on those hard tyres. So we follow Mr. Hannes and Alex down into the chicane. Getting a good axe by all of them. Domo Pierce going a little bit wide, losing a bit of speed. You've got to decide as a driver, you're going to really commit over those curbs, or are you going to go a little bit more gentle and perhaps keep a little bit of control over your car, but as a result perhaps lose some speed. We go down the main straight. It's Cameron pulled out over a second now from LLX1, so out of the DRS for LLX. They won't have that protection as Mr. Hannes passes LLX1 on the straight, with the DRS wide open as we come down into 2. Nicely done by Mr. Hannes. So LLX1 sadly starting to struggle a little bit on those medium tyres, 9 laps in. And Imola will be looking to make up another place now and move up into 5th. Mr. Hannes is already coming up on It's Cameron, so that Haas has got some pace here today. We've seen Mr. Hannes, very consistent driver, so looking for... We have a yellow flag in Sector 1 and in Sector 2, so someone is having some struggles. Let me bring up the map for all to see. So Mr. Hannes unfortunately not able to keep much pressure on It's Cameron at the moment, and Alex now coming up behind them too. So this race ebbing and flowing as the laps pass us by, already on lap 11. And MVR has disappeared off into the distance, but another safety car will eat that 8-second advantage up very, very quickly. But I imagine we will see some very swift pit stops if that's the case. Relatively short pit straight here, so probably not much more than about 20 seconds to conduct a pit stop, which is clearly... We have a yellow flag in Sector 1, and it looks like Delta 1 is a DNF. Don't know if this we have left us, unfortunately. So yeah, Delta 1 a DNF and 3-second time penalty for It's Cameron. So exceeding track limits. I mentioned at the start this is going to hurt some drivers. Indeed, MVR also has picked up a penalty as well. So I am not too surprised by that. This is a really tough track as the drivers look to push. So unfortunately we lose Delta 1. Yellow flag in Sector 1 remains. As Pete is reminding me, we have 4 drivers out there on penalties. So these gaps between the cars become ever more important as we go through this race. There will be some decisions made by some of these drivers as they get to the latter stages as to whether or not it's even worth overtaking another driver, or just if the driver in front has that penalty. So we might see some tactical play as we go towards the end of the race, but that's some way off. We're lap 12 out of 32. That yellow flag has now gone as we watch Mr. Hannes on the back of Alex, but Alex in that top group of 4 with no penalties where those around them do. So they don't necessarily have to fight so hard, but I'm knowing Alex and the way they've been driving in recent weeks will be looking to get after It's Cameron as quickly as they can. Domo Pierce and Imola, the McLaren pair in 5th and 6th, still in close proximity to Mr. Hannes and Alex. Pete has had a close eye on SS7, who is now closed up to under 3 seconds behind Domo Pierce and is able to go a long way on those hard tyres. So we are not writing off SS7, certainly for a podium, as Imola gets quite wild coming out of the last corner there onto the main straight. As we see Mr. Hannes passing LLX1 to get up into, I think this is the first time they've been into 3rd spot. So Good move by Mr. Hanners into turn 2 there, and will be looking to get after the Alfa Romeo in front of them. But as we've seen multiple times, the DRS being so powerful, if El Alex can stick behind Mr. Hanners until we get back round to the start-finish straight, they will be swiftly past them. It will depend how much ERS they have available, but that will help significantly. So really not much to choose between 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th here. We haven't really spent any time. I don't want to drift away from that battle too much, but just want to give a little bit of quick airtime to Solite TM, one of our newer drivers here. We very much welcome them to the G-Force Racing League, and when time allows we'll come back to them and Wands for Aston Martin. But I do not want to miss this group here as we join a perfect time as Imola goes around the outside and then on the inside of 17 and 18. What a great move by Imola there. 2 cars pretty much in one move. Fantastic move on their hard tyres as they now look to get away, and they have the DRS as they crossed behind the cars in front, that DRS beam. So great move by Imola, very opportunist, and they move up into 3rd place. MVR continuing to stretch their lead, now 11 seconds ahead of its Cameron in 2nd place. Imola now in 3rd on those hard tyres, and Mr. Hanners in 4th, closely followed by El Alex, and then Domo Pierce in 6th. SS7 getting that gap down now to under 2 seconds to Domo Pierce, so Domo Pierce will be coming under pressure from the Mercedes in the not too distant future. Wands and Solite TM circulating an 8th and 9th for Aston Martin here. Baggysaurus in the AlphaTauri, I can't get my words out this evening, I do apologise folks, in 10th, and Dangerous Dave in 11th. So we stick with this battle here as Mr. Hanners will have DRS as we go, as it's Cameron heads into the pits. Those soft tyres have gone as far as they can. Domo Pierce following them in. We'll see what its Cameron switches onto. They've gone onto the mediums. So mediums for the next 17 or so laps for its Cameron. That's definitely doable here. So we'll watch its Cameron as they look to progress up the grid. And Domo Pierce onto hard tyres. Again, looking to take those to the end of the race. Remember, drivers will have to choose a different compound at least once during this race. So they cannot take one set of tyres right to the very end. They have to stop once, and they have to use at least 2 compounds of tyres through the race. So it's Cameron gone onto the mediums, and Domo Pierce onto the hards. That's allowed SS7 to move up into 5th place, and will be continuing to move back up the field here from their earlier troubles, which we sadly didn't see at the Varianta chicane. So Mr. Hanners closing in on Imola, not letting them get away for sure. I suspect Mr. Hanners, I was just about to say, will be coming in very shortly. So in they come. We'll see if they go onto the softs, or perhaps we're looking for some hard tyres to take them to the end. As these pit stops start to kick in, we will see the field spread out just a little bit as we return to SS7 as they look to close down El Alex 1 in front of them. But El Alex 1 actually is closing on Imola. Solite in the Aston Martin into the pits as well, as El Alex 1 and Imola resume their battles from the last 2 races. They've always been very close to each other. 5-second penalty for Baggysaurus as they enter the pit lane. So that pit lane entry is so close at the start of as they come off the the start-finish straight. It's very easy to catch the drivers out, and 5 seconds really hurts come the end of this race. So Alex and Imola close together as they often are in the G-Force Racing League on lap 17 of 32. We just passed half race distance as Alex comes into the pits. Moving SS7 up again, but they clearly have to pit again, so well, for the very first time, so they will probably be looking to go on softs for the end of this race. But what we have to remember, folks, is there was the forecast of rain. It's Cameron setting the fastest lap time so far, 1:16.9. So those new tyres working well for It's Cameron. So yes, SS7 will be looking to take these hard tyres as far as they can. And maybe they've got their eye on the weather, thinking they'll save their pit stop until that rain comes down, potentially putting them on a par with the other drivers. And if we get a safety car, that gap to first place will disappear rapidly. You can see, if you look on the screen on the left hand side, the number of black and white crossed flags here, signifying the numerous penalties that our drivers have. And we can take a look here and see if I choose the right one here, folks. So 3-second penalty and a safety car. So we will probably see a number of drivers dive into the pits. We'll stay with SS7 just to see if that's exactly what they do. I think they're going to have to. MVR also in the pits as well. So MVR with a 3-second penalty. Emeleki with a 3-second penalty. It's Cameron with a 3-second penalty. Mr. Hannes with 3 seconds. L. Alex with 5 seconds. And Baggysaurus with 11 seconds. So It's Cameron did not pit. So stays out there on their medium tyres. Obviously recently pitting. So potentially benefiting from that. Though the safety car will bring them right up behind NVR, so that large lead that NVR had built up will negate that gap very, very quickly. So sadly for NVR, that hard work will all need to be done once again. But NVR on their new set will certainly be looking to pull away as quickly as they can. But if It's Cameron can stay within that DRS range of less than 1 second, we've seen how powerful that can be. And I think we see NVR here on hard tyres. Indeed. So NVR on hard tyres will take some time to warm up, particularly having been sat behind this safety car. We've only had a couple of laps behind the safety car so far, so but those hard tyres will lose temperature incredibly quickly. And that's going to make the opportunity for It's Cameron and indeed Emeleki. There seems to be a few swapping of positions here in 3rd and 4th place. Perhaps drivers just sorting themselves out. Yep, so Emeleki in 3rd spot on soft tyres. So we can see a real fight down into turn 2 once the safety car comes in. So that prediction of safety cars certainly proven to be pretty true at this particular point in time. You'll see some drivers will have lost their penalty flags. So anyone who's picked up a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane but then goes back into the pit lane can serve their 5-second penalty in the pit lane. So that removes that penalty for the end of the race. It's Cameron looked to, I think, got ahead. I'm not quite sure what's happened to NVR. Cars swapping positions. Yeah. We've sadly lost Solite as well to a DNF. We seem to be dropping cars like flies here, as there seems to be a problem for It's Cameron. So clearly some issues going for our drivers here. Yeah, no, It's Cameron sorted that out. Cars following obviously very closely behind the safety car. It's always very dangerous if you a bit too close right out behind a driver and they brake unexpectedly. It's very difficult to avoid them. Solite looks to be back with us, so I suspect a connection problem for them. So hopefully they'll be able to get back in the race. Perhaps one of our drivers who's also out might be able to invite them back in, so hopefully they'll be able to get back to racing with us. So we have MVR in first, it's Cameron in second, Emilecki in third, Mr. Hanna's in fourth, SS7 back up to fifth now, Wands in sixth, certainly taking advantage of these pit stops and safety cars. El Alex in seventh, Domo Pierce in eighth, and Baggysaurus in ninth. Now you may know that the G-Force Racing League has what I think a pretty good point system that encourages all our drivers to participate each week. Unfortunately, another 3-second penalty there for Baggysaurus. But essentially, any driver that finishes the race will get points based on their finishing position, be that for first or 20th. So there are points up for grabs for every driver every week. So regardless of ability level, they are able to gain points for them and their team each week. And if they turn up each week, that's going to be a significant haul of points for their team. And just getting to the end of a race, particularly where we're now down to 9 cars, can pay some significant points for you and your team. So I think the drivers here will be looking to try and keep their cars on the track to snatch those points. And again, we saw from last week, and we are again this week, McLaren keeping both of their drivers on the track, and that may well allow McLaren to extend their constructors' lead from the other teams. So Mr. Hannes has made a pit stop under the safety car to jump onto soft tyres. So I wonder if they're thinking there is rain coming. I'm going to try and get as far up the field as I can. Those soft tyres will be stickier even when the rain starts to come down. So that might put them in a strong place as the latter stages of this race plays out. Safety car in this lap. So we'll be going racing on lap 21. And we'll see how our various different tyre strategies play out, where you have the hard in first place with MVR, medium in second on its Cameron's car, and Emilecki in the McLaren on those softs will be looking to get past pretty quick. But we see SS7 lurking in the background as well. We won't ride off Wands. We don't know Wands yet as a driver. And we've also got El Alex, and we know the quality they have. So here we go. Starting lap 21. Safety car pulls into the pits. Looks as though it's Cameron and Emilecki have done well to follow MVR on that start, have not got away. So it's Cameron on the outside of MVR as we go into turn 2. On the outside overcooks it, was gone wide through the gravel. Could well lose it through there. Emilecki now putting MVR straight under pressure on those soft tyres. Hasn't managed to get past at this particular point in time as we go down to turn 7. Emilecki staying right up behind MVR. Will be looking to put them under pressure really quickly, but SS7 right up behind Emilecki. As these three battle it out on lap 21 of the G-Force Racing League. Emilecki looking to close down both drivers, NVR in front of them, but looking over their shoulder at SS7. Bear in mind, SS7 has no penalties, so they will not need to force it here, need to make any rash moves. But we'll be coming down to start lap 22. DRS I don't think is enabled just yet. We'll be looking for race control. Baggysaurus sadly retired from the session. It's Cameron rejoining there in 8th place now. So as we come down the main straight to start lap 22, another yellow flag in sector 3. I suspect that might be for Baggysaurus. Safety car has not returned to the track, so we hope that incident can be cleared very quickly. So Emilecki closing down MVR. SS7 following them. MVR doing well on those hard tyres. Emilecki will not be looking to damage those softs too much too early. They've got still a long way to go unless there is another safety car or perhaps the rain does come down. But sticking close together, these three on lap 22 of the G-Force Racing League. El Alex 1 having dropped back 3 seconds behind the front three runners here. Mr. Hannes, that soft tyre switch over under the safety car may be paying dividends. They've moved up into 5th. Domo Pearson 6th, Wands in 7th, and it's Cameron now in 8th. So I suspect DRS will be enabled as the cars come over the start-finish line. Not just yet, so cars continue. We'll be using battery potentially, or maybe saving that when DRS is available. SS7 setting the fastest lap of the race with a 1:16.720. So SS7 very much back in the fight. SS7 having won pre-season in Spain and also the opening race in Bahrain. Bahrain leads the Drivers' Championship at the moment. But MVR perhaps looking to take SS7's crown over the coming races. So the Ferrari from the McLaren, from the Mercedes. As we head down towards Acqua Minerale. Those tyres will be screaming as they brake and back up the hill, running out wide over those curbs. As we come down to the chicane. Emilecki not letting up on MVR. SS7 not letting up on Emilecki. So based on penalties at the moment, SS7 knows they are actually at the lead of this race. So they don't need to make a move, but I think SS7 is a racer. So I fully expect they will not be happy just to sit there in 3rd place necessarily. But they could be conserving that battery, and that can serve to their advantage as we get to the latter stages of this race. Yellow flag in Sector 3. So cars pushing, that yellow flag cleared very quickly. There's certainly going to be a dilemma for SS7 in their cockpit there as to do they follow close behind, save the ERS but degrade the medium tyres more through less downforce and the disruptive air from the car in front, or do they look to get past and go ahead on track? I think they would probably prefer to win it on track, but they want to win the championship ultimately. So Emilecki will be looking to get past MVR as quickly as they can. But SS7 clearly putting Emilecki under some significant pressure now as we come down into turns 17 and 18. MVR starting to pull away. Emilecki is outside that DRS range, so they have picked up DRS at this point, which will close that gap up. You can see that 1 second reduced almost by well over half a second. Just how powerful that DRS here in Imola. Whilst this battle is definitely raging at the front, our drivers at the back have certainly started to spread out. It's Cameron still continuing now in 8th, but 11 seconds back now from Wands. I wouldn't be surprised if they have picked up some damage from that spin earlier on potentially, and that's really unfortunately hurt their race. 3-second time penalty for Emilecki, who's gone wide in Acqua Minerale, and that's really given the opportunity for SS7 to get alongside. They do not waste that opportunity as they head through the chicane. We'll now have to watch and see if SS7 can close down NVR on those hard tyres. We know Emilecki will not give this up. Probably be a little bit disappointed with himself for that mistake at the chicane. We know DRS is now activated again. Indeed, they do have it, but Emilecki there did appear to be out of ERS briefly. There was the red light flashing as SS7 defends into turn 2, has used up their ERS as well. So we see that red light flashing on the back of the cars. In wet conditions, that's used to alert the drivers of a car in front, but in dry conditions it's used to indicate that the driver in front has less than 10% battery life left. So it's a good indication for a car coming up behind to see if they have a potential power advantage. So SS7 2 seconds back from MVR. MVR has survived that early pressure as those hard tyres warmed up, and now as SS7 goes wide, they're using those hard tyres well, starting to stretch their advantage from SS7. Imola sticking with SS7 at this particular point in time, but I'd like to go down. Let's give one of our newcomers ones some airtime here. So on this current stint, 8 laps on their hard tyres, 2.5 seconds behind Domo Pierce, picking up some points for Aston Martin. And Aston Martin, I don't think have yet had a car out. They don't think they had a car out in Bahrain. So this will be some good points for Aston Martin. And we welcome ones to the G-Force Racing League. So let's ride on board with ones as we go on to lap 27. We go down to turns 2 and 3, clipping those curbs on the inside, but avoiding those yellow sausage curbs, which can potentially damage the car and will massively unsettle them. As we go down through 5 and 6, looking to avoid the big curb on the outside. We want that late apex. Those hard tyres working okay as we drift out wide and head up the hill. We can see Domo Pierce 3.5 seconds in front of us. So Wands drops down the gear and down the hill into Aqua Minerale, braking. We'll then head up the hill, accelerating as hard as we dare, but trying to keep the car stable. And we brake into the chicane. Takes a big chunk of curb on the inside, both sides. Big wobble from the car as we come out of the chicane. And we accelerate back down the hill, braking into 17. Clip the curb on the inside. And again back onto the main straight. And accelerating. Closing that gap to Domo Pierce to 3.2 seconds. So a good lap there from Wands and closing down Domo Pierce in the McLaren in front of them. So Imola we can see dropping back from SS7. Those soft tyres haven't seen better days, unable to keep with SS7. But also NVR pulling away from SS7 on those hard tyres. Now Pete is telling me in my ear that there may be rain, and I had noticed that it certainly started to look a lot greyer. Yes, we are seeing rain. So we're on lap 28 of 32. Essentially about 5 laps here left to go. Our driver's going to risk it. It really depends how heavy this rain is going to be. All these tyres have seen some distance. It's only Mr. Hannes on their soft tyres that have seen 8 laps really, that are not in double figures. Domo Pierce the other, or 9 laps on their medium tyres. But realistically, our driver's going to risk it for these final laps, or they're going to have to bite the bullet and go in. I want to check penalties here just very briefly, because we remember that SS7 does not have a penalty, but NVR does. So that 3 seconds, they're well out ahead, not in danger of ceding first place to SS7 at this point, but they really can't afford to make any significant mistakes. Cars are clearly struggling and starting to, well, we can see from our timing screen that those lap times have reduced significantly in the last lap or so. So that rain, and even SS7 now picking up a 3-second time penalty. So it really is a tough circuit. Imola, these drivers doing their best to stay within track limits, but it's so easy to get both wheels over the line. And I'm thinking that this rain really is too much for these tyres. I can see cars spitting off into the scenery very quickly, but that is the gamble for our drivers. Imola has made that call. Imola is in. So this could be the difference between a race victory. Yeah, Mr. Han is in as well. So the cars behind, they have nothing to lose. Let's face it, at this point in time, it's a very smart move from those lower runners. It's Cameron has continued. So they're sticking it out on those medium tyres, quite old medium tyres at this point as well. They're going to trust their driving ability in these wetter conditions. As we'll jump on board here with Imola on their intermediate tyres against It's Cameron on those medium. I don't really think this is going to be a contest, and indeed it is not. So they breeze past It's Cameron. DRS has been disabled, so race control think this rain is going to get too hard to allow for DRS to continue. So we're going to watch the distance between, or the time between Emileki and El Alex 1. Keep a close eye on that. We are going to go up to NVR 3 laps from the end on their hard tyres on this increasingly wet track to see if they can hang on. Now that gap to SS7 is not getting any smaller, so SS7 really not making any inroads on MVR at this point. But we are going to watch Emileki, so they are many seconds back, so 18 seconds even from El Alex. They're a good 40 or so seconds back from NVR, so they've really got to go some in these final laps. But there's every possibility of a podium for them here. We will drop down actually just to see if there's any chance of Emileki closing in on El Alex. It doesn't really look like it. 9 seconds, so apologies, 16 seconds back from El Alex. So really needs El Alex or SS7 to make a mistake. We have, and the yellow, that's MVR. MVR has spun. And that was always the risk. SS7 will be looking to get past them as quickly as they can, and indeed he has made it past, but now there's a battle and MVR's in all sorts of trouble there. That's a real shame after just such a commanding race lead for so long in this race. Those hard tyres on this wet track was always going to be ever so difficult. I really feel for them after driving clearly an amazing race up until the rain came down. But one wheel in the wrong part of the track is incredibly tough luck on MVR. Well, hopefully they can stay in second place. Alex is not. Alex is 3 seconds behind MVR. Maybe that's the battle for us to watch as we come to the very end, as Mr. Hannes has got past It's Cameron. So It's Cameron staying out on those mediums has not worked for them. Emileki back in 6th spot. We are a few corners from the end here. We will return to SS7 just right at the end if they can stay in front. El Alex has clearly probably also had a bit of a moment. They were closing down MVR pretty quickly, but that gap out to 3 seconds now. So sadly that's not going to work, but Emileki closing them down. So Emileki looking to take another podium and another battle with El Alex 1. Indeed, they're already down half a second. Mr. Hannes picking up another 3-second penalty, so that may play into the hands of Tomo Pierce as we reach the very end of this race. And Emileki up into 3rd, so congratulations to them. We go to SS7 for the final corners of the Grand Prix here in Imola for the G-Force Racing League, with SS7 really struggling to get into that final corner. El Alex 1 picking up another 3-second penalty. So SS7 continues their winning form in the G-Force Racing League and brings the Mercedes home in 1st place once again. Congratulations to SS7. NVR, we feel for NVR. What an amazing drive, but sadly not to be. It's just that final mistake towards the end of this race. Emileki there in 3rd, maintains their run of podiums in the G-Force Racing League in 3rd place. El Alex 1 into 4th. Domo Pierce up into 5th. Mr. Hannes in 6th. Wands in 7th. Congratulations to them. And It's Cameron in 8th. Well, what an end to the race, everyone. That was quite epic, actually. I feel a bit out of breath after that. There was so much to take in at the end of that race. I really hope you have enjoyed watching that one as much as I have. In terms of who do we give driver of the day to? Well, SS7, I'm going to say, probably made a mistake in that race at one point. But Imola is going to take it for me this week for their push through, the clever, smart decision to go on intermediates at the end. But it was a close run thing, and MVR we feel for, but we welcome them to the G-Force Racing League, and we know that they are going to be a force to be reckoned with in the next races to come. So next week we are back in Barcelona in Spain for race 3 of the G-Force Racing League, and we expect to have a pretty full grid with more new drivers joining us, have already signed up, so join us for that one. So SS7 is our victor again for Mercedes, NVR in 2nd, Imola in 3rd, L Alex1 in 4th, Domo Pierce in 5th, Mr. Hannes in 6th, Wands in 7th, and It's Cameron finishing in 8th. Points for all those drivers. Pegasaurus, Solite, Dangerous Dave, Delta One and Ace Pilot, all sadly DNFs. So congratulations once again to Mercedes. Welcome to all our new drivers. SS7 also picks up an extra point for fastest lap of the race. Penalties galore, as you can see on the screen here, but a truly fantastic race. We really look forward for the rest of the season to come. So if you've enjoyed what you've seen today, please do let us know in the chat. If you haven't yet, follow us on Twitch. You'll find all our replays on YouTube as well as on the Twitch stream. We'd love you to follow us on both of those and come back and see us again next week. We will be live here on M1 Racing, 8 PM UK time, and we'll be back in Barcelona. We will see you then. Thanks for watching.